Lumbo,
Yeah.
the wide receiver group this year is a very deep group. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the leader. The two kids from LSU are really good. Rome has from Washington have went up. Is there any chance that Marvin Harrison Jr. will not be the first pick as a wide receiver?
Well, today's the LSU workout day, so Nabors is going to work out. Thomas is going to work out. We obviously, Jaden Daniels is working out. What he weighs will be an important thing toward the draft as well. Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of people that think Nabors has that unbelievably explosive ability that you look for in a number one receiver. One of the things you have to do, Pac-Man, when you grade receivers is you've got to be able to classify them as, are they inside, outside? What's their role? Right. And not everybody's a number one receiver. I know that all we're going to listen to in the next 4 weeks about mock draft is who's the number one receiver. Number one receivers are one of the hardest positions to really dominate in the league, as you know. I mean, that's a guy that can get open against double coverage, that the coverage has to get rolled to, that people are scared to death to play. And Nabors fits that mold. Now, Marvin is really good, too. Don't get me wrong. Marvin's big. He's athletic. He can run with it after the catch. And I think ultimately, when you're breaking down this board, if you're going to draft one that early, I'm sure you're going to get a guy who is the number one, who's going to draw coverage to him, and he's going to allow you to set up the offense around what he can do at his position. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of love for Nabors within the league, within the NFL community in terms of grades and his ability. That doesn't dismiss Harrison's talent whatsoever. Right. Remember, Pat, the draft, this reminds me, Edgerrin James, when he got selected by Bill Polian in the first round, Ricky Williams went the next pick. Everybody was completely surprised by that. So I think, sometimes the mocks tend to perceive what's actually going to happen when people kind of have it maybe closer, or they're looking for something just a little bit different.
I have a question for you about Marvin Harrison, how he's handled this entire thing, not working out his pro day, not doing anything at the combine. My source says have told me that, his dad potentially, alongside everybody else, we're not stopping football drills. We're doing football. We're running routes. We're catching balls. Yeah. We're football players. We're not getting ready for running a 40-yard dash, doing a 3-cone drill, doing a vert that isn't really needed. Watch the film. He's fast enough to get open. His radius is big enough. He can jump. He can do it all. That's what I have heard. Source says close to the family have said that, but how do you think GMs are going to take that? How do you think everybody's going to react to that? Because it seems to be logical, especially for a guy whose resume has seemingly proven he's going to be a Sunday guy. Yep. He's a legacy player. His dad, obviously, Hall of Famer at the same exact position. He has uncles around, football that are all Hall of Famers. Yep. It's like everything about him screams this guy's going to have at least a 10-year career because he lives it right. You hear his work ethic is absurd. Now, obviously, not everybody can handle this like Marvin Harrison has. Right. But in this particular case, do you think any GMs are thinking about that, or how do you think they're viewing it all?
No, I think he's an exception, right? I think the word you used is appropriate. The resume, his tape speaks for itself, right? And his size speaks for itself, too, because one of the things I think we lose sight of with these guys that are so tall and they have longer wingspan and they have a longer target radius is their ability, their ability to be open and to get the ball. It doesn't necessarily translate into the 40 time, right? We've seen this happen in the NFL. I mean, guys that don't have great 40 times that make plays down the field because of their ability to extend their arms, to play big. And that's important. And I think Harrison demonstrates that on the tape. Now, he's got a resume to back that up. And certainly he can prove that. He's played at a very young age. We saw him catch balls last year for C.J. Stroud, so you can see that. I don't think it's going to hurt. It's going to be the exception, though. I don't think everybody wants to do it. Whereas at Nabors, Nabors is excited I'm sure he's excited to work out because he feels like, hey, maybe I could pass Harrison if I just put a really great 40 time. One thing I know about players like this, they're usually really competitive. They're really, really competitive. I remember I wanted to work out Michael Irvin, and Michael Irvin wouldn't work out for anybody. And so I called him. This is back in 88 or something, and there was no cell phones and there was none of that. And I called him on the phone and I said, Michael, I want to work you out. And I pretended I was Marty Schottenheimer. And he said, oh yeah, Coach Schottenheimer, I'll work out for you anytime. Now he wasn't working out for anybody. So when I get down there, he sees this fat guy from New Jersey. I ain't Marty Schottenheimer. He said, I ain't working out for you. Well, then when I started working out other guys, he came over and said, damn, I'll do that. That's no problem. I'll kick that. And he came over and worked out. So the competitive fire comes out in the players, and you just love it. And I think Harrison would be just like that.
How about, didn't Irvin say Green Bay, if you draft me, I'm coming back. I'm not. When he speaks, I'm listening.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
He looks good, too. Doesn't he? He looks good right now.
He was on I was working guys out on the basketball court. We had this athletic testing thing called the box, and he was on the other court, and I was on setting it up, and guys were doing the drills, and he kept peeking over, and finally he came over to me and said, dude, I'll do that. I don't think he knew my name or anything. He knew I wasn't Schottenheimer, though.
And he
ended up doing it, and it was impressive, and he killed it. Yeah. He was unbelievable. You could see him on the basketball court. Like, really, if you want to watch Marvin Harrison and think what kind of number one receiver he could be, watch him go play hoops.
There's a lot in there, especially now guys are playing more basketball publicly.
Yep.
Watch them play hoops.
Because there for a while, remember, they were trying to say you shouldn't play basketball, you'll get hurt, you'll ruin your career. That was becoming a narrative. This younger generation's like, we're out here.
Yeah.
And it's good for future generations that you're allowed to play other sports, you're allowed to have cardio that is different sports, you're allowed to develop different skills from other sports. You don't need to be a specialist in one thing. It has worked for people. Being a specialist in one thing has worked for people, but we need to keep all-around athletes.
Yes.
Need to do it, and you can display it. Nabors ran a 4.35 40 just now.
Wow.
4.35 down at the LSU Pro Day, and he is
moving.
Absolutely
That's
jumped.
a big man, too.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You're bigger, stronger, faster than any of us ever will be.
That's right.
And you're going to be a first-round draft pick.
Yep.
How about that? On this show, we're breaking the news.
Boom.
Nabors going to be a first-round draft pick this upcoming draft. Congrats to him. That's all we needed to see was that 40 right there.
right.
We needed to see what it was, but now he's passed our test. We appreciate you, Lombo. You're the man. Schefter just posted that there are some NFL personnel men who believe, I like that he had personnel men. So the personnel women did not say this.
Okay.
If you know any NFL, they are not the ones. It was men that said this. He's kind of giving away his sources.
A little bit.
It's kind of like a guess who. Is there a mustache? You know,
right.
This entire thing. There are some NFL personnel men who believe Malik Nabors is this draft class's top wideout, as he quote tweets the 4.35. He also put up a 40-plus inch vertical in this entire thing. Rome Odunze and some other chatter is maybe the top guy. Marvin Harrison Jr. was the top guy for like the last 3 years, is what we all understood. Is this smoke? Is this real? What are your thoughts on this? And can a pro day like this for Nabors make that type of decision or alter that type of course on draft night?
Well, first of all, Pat, like those three wideouts are in my top four. So, I mean, I literally have Caleb Williams, then these three wideouts. So they're all big time players with big grades. I posted something last week, maybe a little over a week ago or a week ago, about this same topic, about how there are teams. I will not be surprised if you'll hear about teams that have Nabors as the top guy, just because when you watch these guys, you know, 3 in a row, he's got a different gear. What he does after the catch, it's unique when you compare him with these other guys. Now, I have him as the third guy, but I've talked to teams picking to the bottom of the first round, which are going to be honest with you, because look, they're not in the market. They're not going to have any chance of getting these guys. And I talked to one team specifically that had Nabors as the top guy. So I think Schefter's, you know, he's talking to folks, and that's legit. That's legit information. I've stuck with Marvin start to finish. I went back and watched him in some 22 stuff a week or two ago. Him and Caleb have both been my 1 and 2 guys. And I thought, you know what, let me go back and just circle back to 22 and go refresh myself on 22, because we've watched so much 23. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's why everybody loves these dudes. Like, these guys are freaks.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison has been a freak since the day he stepped on the campus. And then the stories they tell about his work ethic seemingly leads to, like, the type of guy you're getting, the type of player you've seen on film.
Yep.
And you're going to have his dad potentially talking to your wide receiver room. You know, there's just so many things that seem to be upside here, but we are in draft season. We are in the overanalyze season, and Marvin chose not to run, jump, or do anything else that Malik Nabors just impressed the entire world with his numbers. So that's an added benefit, but I'll be excited to see who pulls the trigger on who on actual draft night when push comes to shove.